Enrico Gelain, and welcome here to this live speech about the ancient alignment, sacred alignment in ancient places of energy.
Yeah, so today we are going on with the same topic we spoke about last week in our international live. But if last time we focused especially on Sardinia, which is an island really full of monuments and full of alignments, this time we are going actually really around the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that right? Yeah. Okay, great. And yes, so last time we had an introduction talking about what energy of places are, and then we went through some beautiful, interesting places of energy of Sardinia, the island where we actually work most of the year, and the island where my studies and first research actually started. And after some year of researching and studying in Sardinia, I then decided to start traveling to see other places of the ancients, and especially searching the places directly aligned to celestial phenomena. This is because I'm also an astrologer, and as an astrologer I have always been interested not only in the studies of the stars and their influences on human behavior, but also I've always been interested in researching the roots of astrology, and the roots of astrology can be found in the ancient civilizations, because astrology actually started a long time ago. And for this reason, after having seen and observed celestial phenomena on the beautiful island of Sardinia, I really wanted to start a research in other places in the world. Yeah. So this is the way my research actually started. And one of the researchers and writers who really inspired me was an archaeoastronomer who is American, Anthony Aveney, and he is the author of a very beautiful book about archaeoastronomy and astrology. So the two ancient sciences put together. And so in his books, he actually explains how the sky was so important for the ancient people, and how this was connected with the study of astrology, of the influence of planets, stars on our life. So before we go through the places we want to show you, I just would like to underline that the importance of the sky for ancient people. The ancients always believed and felt that they were part of a wider environment. It was not only nature around us, but it was also what is above us, that is the sky. And for this reason, the ancients started to look into the stars and at the sky. Imagine at the same time that in those days the sky was just so brilliant. There was no pollution, and so the sky was so bright, and people didn't have any other kind of entertainment, let's say, no TV, for example. So they really spent their nights outside looking at these wonderful stars and, the night sky. And for sure, they started to ask questions, about the space, and by observing the sky, they started to find out that the sky shows precise phenomena, a very precise movement, that comes back in a cycle and in a rhythm. And so to them, the sky became the archetype of perfection, the archetype of harmony, the harmony that is part of the law of our creation. And so actually we see some people already here listening to us.
Yeah, connected in
Yeah,
the group.
so hello to everybody, welcome here.
Hi, Maura.
Especially we are really very happy to see Maura, because we don't see Maura that often, because we know she's always very busy. Maura is a very, very dear friend of ours, so we are very happy to see you here, Maura. Welcome. And of course, welcome to everybody, Gabriella and Mara, and very happy that you're here. Yes, right. So this is actually how people in ancient days started to look at the sky and into the sky. And
also on these days we are seeing how much beautiful the sky is, because without pollution we are again seeing the stars, and especially here on Tenerife, when the sky and the climate, it's the air is so clean usually, already every day, but nowadays we are seeing a very bright planet, Venus, which is even more bright than usual.
Yes.
So it's really incredible, amazing. You can be mesmerized.
Yeah. You really see the planets pulsating, It's so beautiful. Okay, usually in Tenerife the sky is anyway really fantastic, but in these days even more than that. And because to those who don't know us, we spent part of the year on this beautiful island of Tenerife, where we have discovered some interesting things related to the civilization that lived here before the Spanish conquest. And there are also some amazing places of energy. And so we love this place. We really love this island. And we are still here waiting to be able to go back to Sardinia for our summer. And so having said how the ancients started to look at the sky and what they found in the sky, actually for this reason, because the sky showed this harmony, the ancients started to honor the sky, and their deities became the planets and the sun and the moon, and they honored all these celestial bodies. And for this reason, they were their fundamental archetypes. And also, when they started to build sacred monuments, they tried to align these monuments to their light in order to enhance the energy itself that was in the place, And in order to be connected to the celestial bodies and to live in harmony with this kind of energy, okay? And to them, astrology was a way to understand how the energy of celestial bodies could influence and affect our life on our terrestrial environment, in our daily life. And it was also a way to try to be really in harmony with the celestial movements. It was always a search for harmony. This is very, very important to underline when we talk about the ancients and their relationship with the sky. And to them, it was like a continual dialogue, conversation with the sky, you know. And they really wanted to know what the celestial bodies had to tell us. It was really a dialogue, which this is a very important aspect to be understood when we want to understand the vision that the ancients had of our universe and of life, and the reason behind most of their sacred monuments. So I think now we can begin, yes. And of course, if you have any things you want to tell us and share, you can just write here, and we will be happy to answer you. And also to read what you have to say. So we start with the beautiful island of Malta. This is another amazing place, a place that I visited many years ago, and actually I would like to go back. And I really, really loved what I saw. In Malta, at a point, a very sophisticated culture developed. And it was a culture very much connected both to the sky and to Mother Earth. If you have a look at this slide, you can actually see the bizarre shape of these temples. We see this temple, actually the temple of Mnaidra,
consists of 3 different temples.
Yes. Yeah. And you see, this is a picture taken from above, and you see the bizarre shape, which actually is not exactly like a circle, but it resembles much more a womb. So the feminine aspect of life, and it reflects their idea of honoring Mother Earth, that mother that sustains and nourishes all of us. So here we can see this very deep connection with Mother Earth and the sacred aspect that Mother Earth had for them. But at the same time, this civilization was very, very careful to build this monument connected with the celestial harmony. And here we are going to see the entrance, this beautiful entrance. Here actually you have really an idea of how sophisticated their temples were. Here you see that the stones were very, very carefully carved.
Chiseled.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes. And this is a very ancient civilization when we think that the temples of Malta were built more or less around 3500 BC. So a very long time ago. And if actually we follow what is what are the official data of the archaeologists, this temple is would be older than the Great Pyramid of Egypt. So it's a very, very old civilization. We don't know very much about this civilization apart from the temples, because nothing else has ever been found about these civilizations. No houses, very few objects. The objects are always objects related to the holy, sacred vision that they had of life. Yeah. And at the same time, now I just want to say hello to Laura, who is actually watching us. Hi, Laura. It's very nice to see you here. And Antonella, welcome here. Thanks for being here.
Here we can see one of the 3 alignments which occur inside this monument. As you can see, it happens in a door very similar to this one, and which is the door between the first room and the second room, and the sun will enter and lighten in different dates of the year different parts of this gate.
Yes.
So it will at the so there are 3 different alignments, and which are the equinox, the spring equinox, the solstice, and the autumn equinox. And the light will hit different stelae. The left and right stela, and during the solstice instead, the beam of light will just enter precisely inside the door, hitting the last room. And we can see here how exceptional this alignment is, because there's also very peculiar symbolism about it. This phenomenon, which is separated into 3 phenomena inside the same temple, is due to the very precise calculation the architect made in order to align the same monument to 3 different phenomena. But also the peculiar thing is the symbolism, the shape of the light which happens on these days, because actually, as you can see on the left picture, the beam of light during the equinoxes takes a different shape. So it's like an X. Which has its own meaning and symbolism. During ancient times, a very peculiar symbol is the double X, which is an X connected to the strength of the sun. Why is it so? Because as the natural phenomenon of the sun are phenomena of the sun are arranged, it will happen that the dawn of the winter solstice will enlighten a spot inside the temple. Normally, in other temples, not this one, but it will mark on the horizon the spot where the sunrise of the summer solstice will happen, and again the sunrise of the summer solstice will mark the spot on the horizon where the winter solstice will happen. And this marks an invisible X of light on the ground, which is shaped like a double X. Double X is a very ancient symbol and very sacred symbol. You can find it also in Sardinia, but also in Crete, built in of course, in a golden material, golden metal, which is the symbol of the ray of light, as you can see it. And it marks the strength the sun will reach in its best part of the year. And here you can see a very peculiar X, which is marking one side of the temple. The other phenomena at the equinox will have a similar X, but specular on the other side, indicating the other part of the temple. So the temple is arranged like in a fan fashion, or like a parabola, receiving the rays of lights. And if you mount the two halves, you can see a double X.
So, of course, it was also a way for these people to mark the passing of time. So it was, in a way, like a clock, you know. This was also important. At a point, this became very important to ancient people, you know, to be able to mark the time, you know. And so by observing the alignment of the sun inside the temple, they could actually understand the cycle of the year, you know. That was also a very important thing, you know. So it was also like a point of observation, astronomical observation, and of marking the time. Of course, the sun is what gives life, and so the sun has always been very important, you know, to ancient civilizations, and for this reason really had a sacred purpose. You know, this was a sacred, a
sacred ground and a sacred phenomena which will occur inside the temple, and this is a way to consecrate even more.
Yes.
And these monuments were also built in order to have a hierophania, which means the god is manifesting itself inside the temple. This is a very important thing that were done here inside this temple. They were built in order to receive the god inside the temple in special dates of the year.
Yeah, because the cults were astral in those days, and because of the importance of the sky, and and so at the same time, when the sun, this spectacular energy, was entering the temple, the energy of the place itself, of course, would enhance, you know, and in an incredible way, you know. Yes.
So a very powerful phenomenon.
Very powerful. Yeah. And it's also like a symbol of fertility, you know, as we were saying at the beginning. The temple, the Maltese temple, resemble the womb, you know, the feminine womb, and the ray of the sun, which is really masculine, penetrates. It's masculine because it penetrates, and so it's really this sacred marriage taking place, the encounter of the two energies that give life on this planet, you know. And it was a way to make this encounter sacred and visible at the same time. So with all these meanings, we can actually understand how important and magical this moment must have been for the ancients, you know. And of course, it's also very magical nowadays, even if in many cases we do not put all these different meanings within the phenomenon happening, but still retains this magical mood, this magical atmosphere.
And of course, let's think about the moment of the equinox in which this golden ray of light will hit the altar, the Sancta Sanctorum. Here you can see it. It really reaches the altar, the most sacred part of the temple. How the sacred objects would shine, be enlightened during those monuments, and how the priest or the priestess will be enlightened in gold during those days.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, it's true. That's really true. Yeah, beautiful. And of course, imagine how precise they had to calculate everything very precisely in order, you know, to have this phenomenon happening exactly in this way. Another beautiful, amazing temple is the temple of Gigantia. It's the biggest one, giant, in fact, the name. And again, another amazing monument. And here we have another alignment, yes, happening. Go on. Right, so Malta is actually a place where to go, and it's possible to book in advance through the official website. Yeah, the official website. It's possible to book during those days to go and see the alignments, because this is actually acknowledged by the official archaeology in Malta. And of course, in Egypt, which is also a very, very ancient culture, we also had this amazing celestial phenomena happening in their amazing temples. One of the most important ones is the one happening at the winter solstice in Karnak, the temple of Karnak, which is based in Luxor. And the temple of Karnak is the biggest one in Egypt. It's really huge, really huge. You can really get lost. I got lost a few times when I was inside this temple. And there are these big, huge columns. And the alignment happens at the winter solstice, so on the 21st of December, when the sun at sunset aligns perfectly inside the main axis of the temple. Here we have some beautiful pictures of the phenomenon happening. It's really, really nice to watch it, of course. This is actually a phenomenon I haven't watched personally, but you see how perfectly aligned is. It's really amazing. We know that in Egypt the sun was very much worshipped. The god was Ra, and many of the most important gods also had some aspects connected to the sun. For example, Horus was also Ra Orakti, so the god of the horizon at the sunset or at dawn, and so there was a connection with the sun. Or Amon Ra, so the most important god of the invisible, was also connected with the sun, had also an aspect of the sun. As a giver of life, always had this important role. And this phenomenon was first actually watched by the man who invented, let's say, created, who had an intuition of alignments in ancient temples. And this man was Sir Norman Lockyer, who is the founder of this new kind of science, archaeoastronomy, that is actually the science able to measure and see and observe the alignments of ancient monuments in connection with the sky. And he was British, yeah. And he had this intuition when first traveling to Greece, when looking at the sky, he had this perception, very sharp perception, that the temples were somehow aligned to celestial bodies. And after that trip to Greece, he really wanted to go to Egypt and see if an older civilization had already observed the sky and had aligned their sacred monuments to the sky. And this is what he found in Karnak. And after that, he went to Stonehenge to see if there was an alignment there. In Egypt, anyway, we also can still see this alignment of the sun in the beautiful temple of Abu Simbel. Well, this is another amazing place right in the desert, and it's really down in Egypt, you know, not too far from the border with Sudan. And let's travel a bit backwards and think about the Egyptians traveling along the Nile and reaching this temple of Abu Simbel with their boats, you know, in this stunning desert. And there, Ramses II, one of the most important pharaohs of Egypt, wanted to build this temple. That was a temple that wanted to where he wanted to celebrate his birthday. And in fact, the alignment here is not at the solstice or the equinox, but exactly connected to his birthday, which was in February. So actually we can see the phenomenon twice a year, in February and October, because we have the sun reaching the same level, the same height in October.
And position
on
the horizon.
Yes. Yeah. And so that is the time of the year when we can see, Enrico, the phenomenon happening. We have these beautiful chambers, and at the very end of the chamber, where we have all the gods and Ramses himself sitting there, that chamber is hit exactly in those 2 days. I was there in October. I could see it in October, and it's really beautiful, of course, to see, because you are in front nowadays the lake, you know, because then they at a point here they built a dam, and you have this lake and the sun rising and then hitting the statues there. It's really beautiful. But there is one of the 4 statues, the statue representing Ta, the day of the god of the afterlife, is never hit by the sun because it's the god of afterlife.
So it remains in the shadows.
Yes.
Even during the alignment.
Yes, it's beautiful. Okay. Hi, Leslie, and nice to see you here. But anyway, you can
see the video again.
Yeah.
When we'll when it's finished, because it's saved inside the Bridges of Light Facebook page. So yeah, you can just rewatch it from the beginning.
Yes. And here we
we
have
are in
Stonehenge. Yes, we were just talking about Stonehenge. Stonehenge, that was researched first by Sir Norman Lockyer. Because after having seen, as I was saying, the phenomenon in Egypt, he decided to go back to Britain. And because there was this very ancient monuments which dates back to around 3000 BC, so again very, very old, he wanted to check if this monument might have had an alignment. And actually found out that yes, he had he had this alignment. So here we have some images of Stonehenge.
This is the reconstruction, how it was. Nowadays, of course, it's not complete. You can see there are different circles. The one on the outside, they found out it was a small circle, marked with small stones, and it was a burial place, probably where their ancestors were built. And then the biggest circles and another circle of small stones, which is used to mark in a better precise way the rays of light. And the two inner parts of the monuments are in fact a horseshoe. They are not circles, and these two horseshoes, the bigger one and the one made of smaller stones, are oriented towards the winter solstice. But of course, this is not the only alignment we have here in this monument. Here you can see the plan and the reconstruction of all the alignments we can find inside this monument.
It's really, really amazing, you know. And when we think that they thought about building this monument, you know, with all these different alignments, I always find it really amazing, you know. And it really shows how ancient people wanted to feel inside the cycle of the year. They believed in life, they saw life as a cycle in ancient days. Nowadays, we tend to see life like a line of time, a linear timeline, you know, so we have past and present and future. It was not like this with the ancients that really felt and saw themselves living in a circle, you know, going on continuously. And it's actually like that, because if we look at the smallest cycle, day and night, or the cycle of the moon, you know, coming back, you know, in her cycle, you know, the time of the month when we don't see the moon, and then it grows, and then it becomes full, and then you know, it goes down. And so we have this cycle, you know, and there is the cycle of the sun along the ecliptic, you know, along the zodiac sign, with the change of the seasons. And this is what they felt in ancient days, and they wanted to mark and point out also through the alignments with celestial bodies.
Very peculiar phenomenon here is also a special alignment of the cycle of the moon, which we saw on the other episode of our speeches in Sardinia. But in that case, the moon cycle was marked in from the top. I've told you in that occasion that building a monument which is able to capture the rays of the moon from a zenithal point in the sky, it's much more difficult than capture the light of the sun or the moon at the horizon, because at the horizon you have a reference point. You just have to know the degree on the horizon in respect to the north, to know exactly where the celestial body will be. Instead, when you capture the light from the top, you need 3 axes. You have to know 2 angles. You have to know the angle on the horizon and the angle above the horizon, in order to capture the exact position. And the cycle of the moon lasts 18 years and a half, so it's very long, and it's quite more difficult to be spotted.
Yeah, the cycle Enrico is referring to is the so-called cycle of Saros, which is one of the cycles of the moon, apart from that of 28, 29 days.
Yeah.
And it lasts 18 years and a half. It's the cycle that allows to calculate the eclipses, both of the sun and the moon.
Yeah. It's the same phenomenon which the sun has during the sunset, during the solstice, because the sun will have the topmost position on the summer solstice, and the lowest position during the winter solstice. The moon will have a same kind of cycle, but in 18 years and a half. And actually the moon will get lower during the lowest point and higher during the highest point than the sun. So in a kind of way, the moon has been seen in ancient times as more powerful probably than the sun in some ways. That's why in ancient times the mother goddess was celebrated more than the sun.
Yeah, because anyway we have to underline that ancients, of course, realized very early the effect of the moon on our life on Earth, being our satellite. Anyway, we know how the moon affects the sea and affects agriculture and many aspects of our life, So, of course, both were very, very powerful, but there was certainly a point at the beginning when the moon was considered even more powerful, and the cults were connected especially to the moon and were performed by priestesses, So that is actually in very ancient days. It was also, of course, easier at first to spot and understand the cycles of the moon. But here I want to underline one thing, that the cycle of the 18 years and a half was not known by every culture, every ancient civilization. Only some knew about this cycle, which was quite difficult to spot and calculate. And so if a culture knew about that cycle, it really meant that culture was very much knowledgeable in astronomy. And the culture of Sardinia was, and of course we can see that, for example, that of Stonehenge.
Yeah. Here we can see a reconstruction of the ritual during the winter solstice. It was not done like this. Actually, the sun will reach an altar inside all the circles and the 2 horseshoes. So there's an altar inside. The ritual was done inside. But this is a very fascinating picture.
Yeah, very much so. And of course, we have to think that in those special days there were celebrations, huge celebrations, very happy celebrations, you know. And that lasted very long, by the way, very long, days and days. Like in Egypt, they could last even 15 days, you know, some of the celebrations. And then here, another amazing place, a place we love so much, Cambodia, Angkor Wat. Wow, so beautiful. We've been there quite recently. We were very lucky to be able to go there before the lockdown. So in February we were there in Cambodia, and here we see this picture showing Angkor Wat, the major temple.
This is the biggest sacred ground on earth, actually, the biggest temple ever built by mankind.
Yeah, really beautiful. But there are dozens and dozens of temples here on the Angkor plain.
Really an incredible land, incredible monument, very, very big monuments. This was made in 35 years. We still don't know cannot comprehend totally their building technique because at the same time in Europe to build something like this, like the cathedrals, it took for us 100, 150, 200 years to build our cathedrals. And here with the same technology in Indochina, in this Cambodia, this land in Indochina, they just made it in the 35 years, including all the bas reliefs. And this monument also contains the biggest, the longest bas relief on Earth.
Yeah.
We are talking about 1 kilometer and 8 for each side of the monument, and bas relief is really
and as you see, the temple, this temple, like most temples in Cambodia, were built in the shape of a mandala, and so sacred geometry, and showing again the perfection, the idea of harmony. Everything is actually so beautifully conceived. And when you enter the different parts, enclosures, yes, the different enclosures, you actually feel that the energy is enhancing, building up, and you feel it within you, and until you actually reach the very center of the monument. The towers are so beautiful, beautifully made, you see, and they create like a resonance because they are of course a bit like obelisks or the menhirs of the megalithic culture of Europe. They actually absorb the energy from the sky,
like antennas.
And then you know, they resonate together, you know, all together.
They are a fractal system. As you can see, the geometry of the towers is a fractal system, and the minor towers are mimicking the main one. The main one is the only one built on a very energetical spot on the ground. And so actually the only sky-earth connection is on the main tower, and the other towers are resonating thanks to this fractal mimicking, and they connect with the main tower, building a very peculiar energetical scheme, energetical complex. It is called circuito radionico, a radionic circuit, which can amplify the energy the main tower is receiving from the earth and from the sky, and releasing all these energies in all the parts of the temples and also kilometers away.
Yeah, the architects who built this temple were really so sophisticated, and for this reason, because they anyway wanted again to connect sky and earth, and this temple wanted to be a way to honor the harmony of the sky, and these temples were actually, most of the temples here in Angkor were actually connected to some celestial bodies. Here again we have a special alignment at the equinox, and here it is. So right on the day of the equinox you can see the sun reaching the highest tower, the prasat, as it is called in their language,
the Khmer language.
Yes, and so the sun, as you see, it's right there in the center. So magical, and it is really a magical experience to get there, just before dawn. So you get to the temple when it's still dark, and you see this beautiful sky, and then you see dawn rising, and at a point the sun reaching the top, the highest tower. It's really amazing, and the color that the place gets in that moment, it's something you really have to see. It's impossible to describe. Yes, we never, so far we haven't been there at the right day of the equinox, but we have managed so far anyway to watch and observe dawn, the sun rising there. And anyway, there is some kind of alignment. Anyway, the sun always appears in between these towers, so there is still an alignment of the sun in connection with the monument, and it's really magical. And if you meditate or organize a ritual like we do when we go there, it's really fascinating. We have a program to go back there next year. We cooperate together with a British association called Megalithomania, and the founder is the British researcher Hugh Newman, and we are planning to go there with this British group, or anyway it's an international group, but it's based actually in Britain, Stonehenge, near Stonehenge. And we are planning to go there probably next February. Of course, it depends a bit on how things are going to develop with COVID, but we are planning to go there in February. We were actually on the phone just a few days ago with Hugh Newman, and we are planning to go back there. And so think about it, because it's really a place worth seeing. Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, not really. But anyway, okay, this is a picture that is not really connected with celestial alignment, but we want to show it to you, because it's a very special picture of an energy showing in a place of energy of Sardinia. And so this is a small church in the north of Sardinia, which was actually built on a sacred well.
It's a Templar church.
Yes. And what you see here is the energy in the central part of the church, the part near the altar, actually. And it's an energy that you can actually feel, perceive very, very well. It's very easy to perceive it when you are inside this church. And sometimes, thanks to our cameras, these energies can actually show themselves.
This picture was taken with a film camera, so an old camera, and we have the film, the original film, so it's not Photoshop at all. It really seems like these energies are deciding to manifest themselves when they want to. Because many times we tried again to capture this energy, we never managed to take another photo, another picture of it. It just happened once in a lifetime.
Yeah. Yes, and when you actually stand there, after a moment, a very short moment, you actually feel your body moving, you know, forward and backward, and you feel this energy passing through your spine, reaching your chakras. And actually in our trips we always want people also to experience the energies. So our journeys and trips, excursions are always a way to really experience the energies and understand how to feel them, get in contact with these energies. And that's why we always organize some special itineraries during the days of the solstice or the equinoxes, because we want people not only to observe the phenomena but also feel them. And we think this is really the way to be able to understand the vision of the ancients and to understand how the energies around us can connect with our personal energy, because we are energy and we can actually be affected by the energies around us. And so this is what we do, for example, in Sardinia, when every year we organize at the summer solstice and autumn equinox, we organize trips. And actually, again, with this organization, a British organization, Megalithomania, we will organize Sardinia for September 2021. It was actually, we had a program to organize a trip this year, beginning of June, but it's not possible. But we will organize again, but this time during the equinox, in order to observe this celestial phenomena. But we will write here the dates and the name of this organization, so that you can get in touch with it and see what they organize. And we can keep in touch and maybe meet someday in one of these very, very special places, looking and watching these marvelous things, you know. Okay, so I think our time has gone. And we thank all the people who were here listening to us. And we thank, of course, all the people who will watch this video later on, because there are always people who connect later on when they have time. And okay, so we'll meet again in 1 week's time.
Yeah.
Same time, 7 p.m. here on Bridges of Light International, with something new for you, special for you. So bye-bye, and thanks for watching. Bye.